so today I'm going to show you how to find the circumcenter of a triangle. The circumcenter comes from the intersection of the perpendicular bisectors. So, rough sketch, if this is my triangle, I would bisect and draw an equation and write an equation of that line. I would bisect, write an equation of this line. There are perpendicular bisectors of each, and where they intersect is this circumcenter in a nutshell. Right? So let's talk about that. There's three different triangles I could give you. I could give you a right triangle, I could give you a acute triangle, I could give you an obtuse triangle. Right? Some are easier than the others. The easiest one I could give you is a right triangle. Okay? And do you have to graph this to see that this is a right triangle? Can you see that from the coordinates, is this a right triangle? And this is what I'm going to highlight for you. If you look at coordinate A, there's a 0 here, and coordinate B has a 0 here. So there's an x value, or an x coordinate that they both have in common. If I look at the rest of the coordinates, coordinate B has a y value of -1, and coordinate C has a y value of -1. When that happens, that's a right triangle. Okay? So in this case, we're working with a right triangle here. Okay? And again, this is going to be the easiest one that we could work with. So it's definitely a shortcut to solving this one, okay? And here's what I want to show you guys. We're going to write equations of all these. And the equation I'm going to start with here, okay, and then I'm going to show you an even shorter way of doing this one. The equation I'm going to start with is, you pick two coordinates, and I'm going to pick the line of AB, right? So you don't have to graph this. I'm going to show you the graph, but you don't really have to graph this, okay? I'm going to show you the graph of AB. So 0, 3 is here. This one in red. 0, 3 is here, and 0, -1 is here. Okay? What coordinate do they both have in common? The x coordinate or the y coordinate? Yeah. So if I'm going to write an equation here for a vertical line, simple. What do they both have in coordinate? X. So the equation is just going to be x equals and whatever the x coordinate is. A linear equation usually, what we're used to seeing is something like, oh, it's y equals 3x minus 2, or y equals 1/2 x plus 7, something along those lines. But that's when you have an equation that's on a slant or on a diagonal. But if you just have a vertical line here, then it's going to be x equals. And if I look at, so this is looking at AC. If I look at BC, what do they have in common? The y coordinate, and 0, -1, and 6, -1. So this is AB, and this is BC. What's the equation of a horizontal line? Yeah, in this case it's y equals, and you just take the -1. Right? Very easy to write the equation of a horizontal line, vertical line. There's no need to count the slope. There's no need to find the y-intercept. Nada. If it's a vertical line, it's x equals whatever the x coordinate is. If it's a horizontal line, it's y equals whatever the y coordinate is. Now, when I'm finding the equation of the circumcenter, I need the midpoint. I need to bisect the line, right? And I need a perpendicular line. So first I need to bisect it, and I need something perpendicular. So if I look at coordinate AB, what's the middle of coordinate AB? What's the midpoint of coordinate AB? Somewhere here, right? And that's going to be, okay. So there's the midpoint of coordinate AB. If my equation is x equals 0, then there's going to be an equation that's perpendicular to that. There's a perpendicular equation to all this. Well, the perpendicular equation will not be x equals something. The perpendicular equation will now be y equals something. And that will intersect this vertical line with the horizontal line. Where do I want this y equals equation to go through? I want this equation to go through the midpoint. So what's the midpoint of your y values? What's the midpoint of 3 plus -1 divided by 2? So your equation here is y equals 1. So that equation, y equals 1, goes through your side, like your line segment AB, and is perpendicular. It goes through the midpoint of AB and is perpendicular. And what's nice about a right triangle, not only is this the equation, but this is half of your answer. Because when I ask for the coordinates of a circumcenter, you're going to give me the x-coordinate and the y-coordinate. Okay, so when I ask for the coordinates of a circumcenter, you're going to give me the x-coordinate and the y-coordinate. And because this is a right triangle, and I write this equation, y equals 1, great. I got my coordinates so far. So far it's something, comma, 1. This is my circumcenter. All I need now is the x value. And again, with the right triangle, very easy. When I looked at coordinates BC, the equation was the line, or the equation of the line of BC was the horizontal line was y equals -1. What's the perpendicular equation? What's perpendicular to y equals to an equation that's horizontal? What's perpendicular to an equation that's horizontal? An equation that's vertical. So I'm not going to write y equals, I'm going to write x equals. So I want a vertical line that goes through BC, but where do I want it to go through? At the midpoint of BC. So what's the midpoint of the x-coordinates here? So 0 plus 6 divided by 2, and you get x equals 3. So here's 1, 2, 3. Here's the midpoint of BC, and here's my line, my vertical line going through that horizontal line, also making a right angle. And since there's nothing else to do, it just says x equals 3. Now I have the x-coordinate of the circumcenter. And if I connect this triangle here at the very end here, and I connect the triangle ABC, what do you notice? Where do they intersect? Well, they intersect on the... Yeah, so this is going to be the circumcenter of a right triangle is the midpoint of the hypotenuse. So on a right triangle, your circumcenter is on the midpoint of the hypotenuse. So I can go through all these motions of writing the equations and getting your x, getting your y, or very easily, if I just say, here's some coordinates, well, is this a right triangle? Let me see. I see, oh yeah, I see a -2 here and a -2 here. So there's two x coordinates that are the same. If there's y coordinates that are the same, oh yeah, here's here and here. Oh, yes. This is a right triangle because they share this one. Now, if this is a right triangle, then which one's the vertex? R, S, or T? I'm going to go back a slide here. A, B, C. Which one was the vertex here? A, B, or C? Which one was the vertex of the 90-degree angle? Sorry. B was the vertex of the 90-degree angle. And what do you notice about B? It's the one that shared both. So it shared a 0 x-coordinate with A. It shared a -1 y-coordinate with C. So now that I know which one the vertex is, when I go back to this one, if R is the vertex, then which segments are the hypotenuse? Which segment is the hypotenuse? Yeah, so I'm not going to use R, because that's the vertex of the 90. The S and T are going to be the hypotenuse. So when we just showed in this last example, on a right angle, on a right triangle, the circumcenter ended up being on the midpoint of the hypotenuse. So let's just find the midpoint of the hypotenuse and call it a day. So how do I find the midpoint? Midpoint is just take your x values, add them, divide by 2. Take the y values you want, add those, and divide by 2. So when I take the midpoint of ST, I get what? Negative 6 plus negative 2 divided by 2. 5 plus negative 1 divided by 2. What's negative 6 plus negative 2? Negative 8. Negative 8 divided by 2 is 5 plus negative 1. 4. 4 divided by 2. So this is my circumcenter. So my next example. So we did an example here with the right triangle. Make this a little smaller. Is this a right triangle? That's my first question. Because if it is, I'm just going to bypass all the work of writing equations and finding perpendicular bisectors. And I'm just going to find the midpoint of the hypotenuse. All right, so W. Wait, I see a 4 here. And I'm hoping that there's an x value somewhere. And, oh, yeah. Is this a right triangle? Yeah, this is a right triangle. So the x value, or the x coordinate, has the y value of the w coordinate and the x coordinate of the. So do we want to write an equation here? No, we could shortcut this. This is the vertex, which means that the hypotenuse is what? Which segment? WY. So let's find the midpoint of WY. So midpoint formula, again, I'm just going to rewrite it. So x sub 1 plus x sub 2 divided by 2, y sub 1 plus y sub 2 divided by 2. And when I take the coordinates of W, I get negative 1 plus 1 over 2, and 4 plus negative 6 over 2. Negative 1 plus 1, 0. 0 divided by 2, 0. 4 plus negative 6, negative 2. Negative 2 divided by 2. So my circumcenter, in less than 2 minutes, because I was able to identify if this was a right triangle, was just the midpoint of the hypotenuse. Next one, is this a right triangle? First question I'm going to ask myself. If it is, I'm going to find the midpoint and call it a day of the hypotenuse. All right, A. I got 1, 1. 9. B, 9, 1. Oh, there's a 1. Thank you. And C, 3, 5. Nothing matches up. Okay. So not a right triangle. But still a shortcut's available here. And the shortcut is on the segment AB. When you have the same y values, all right, and I'm going to do like a real rough sketch here. This is, I'm going to say this is 1, 1, and this is 1, 9. I'm sorry, 9, 1. So 1, 1, and let's call this 9, 1. What kind of line is that? Yeah, it's horizontal. Thank you. That's going to make life a lot easier. Because I was given a horizontal line or a vertical line, I'm going to be giving an answer of the part of the answer of the circumcenter very easily. If they have, and I'm focusing on B here, AB, so 1, 1, and B is 9, 1, and we said the y values are the same. What's the equation of this line? What's the equation of line AB? Yep.
Y equals 1.
Okay. Same y values. Y value is 1. The equation is y equals 1. Done. The equation of this horizontal line is y equals 1. The equation I want is going to be perpendicular to that. So here's my equation. I'm just going to write EQ here. The equation I want for the circumcenter is the perpendicular equation, which is going to require very little work. What's perpendicular to a horizontal line? A vertical line. Every vertical line starts with the equation, or starts with x equals, and it's just a number. Now, do I want the x value of A? Do I want the x value of B? I want both. I want the x value of their center, because that's where my perpendicular bisector is going to lie. So x equals is going to be my perpendicular line, but I want it at the midpoint of AB. Well, I know the y value is going to be 1, so no big deal there. So what's the midpoint of 1 and 9? 1 plus 9 divided by 2. 1 plus 9 is 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So my midpoint between 1 and 9 is 5. My perpendicular line to that y equals 1 is x equals 5. Nothing more to do there. That's the equation, and that's the x value of the circumcenter. And every equation we write is not always going to give you one of the answers. Some of them are going to require a little bit more work, and they're going to require something called systems of equations. But this one has a horizontal line as one of these segments, or it would work with a vertical line. It would be that easy. Now let's take a combination of another combination. AB, not AB, so AB, AC or BC. Doesn't matter which one. Yep. So it doesn't matter which other line I like. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at BC. B is 9, 1. C is 3, 5. And to write the equation of a perpendicular bisector, and this is not going to be horizontal, it's not going to be vertical, so I'm not going to get away with just writing x equals a number or y equals a number. I actually have to write an equation, which means I need a point and a slope. Well, what's the slope of, or let's go first with this one. The point I need is the midpoint of BC. So what's the midpoint of BC? So to write an equation of a line, I need a point and a slope. The point I want is the midpoint of BC. What's the midpoint of BC? Well, I'm going to add the x values, which is 9 plus 3, and divide by 2. I'm going to add the y values, which is 1 plus 5, and divide by 2. And that gives me a midpoint of 9 plus 3 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And then 1 plus 5 is 6. Divide by 2, and I get 3. Okay, so here's the point I want. This is my midpoint. Perfect. Now I need a perpendicular bisector. Here's the bisector part 6, 3. I need to be perpendicular to this. So what's the slope of BC? What's the slope of BC? So if we recall how to find slope, we take the difference of the y values, y sub 2 minus y sub 1, over the difference of the x values, x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And in this case, we're going to get 5 minus 1 over 3 minus 9. 5 minus 1 is 4. 3 minus 9 is negative 6. So my slope is negative 2/3. Now, to be perpendicular, I don't want the slope of negative 2/3. I need the perpendicular slope of that line, which is the negative reciprocal. So whatever your slope is, if your slope is negative, now your slope is going to be, your perpendicular slope will be positive. And if your fraction is 2/3, you take the reciprocal of that, which is 3/2 or 3 seconds. Okay? So now I have everything I need to write the equation. I have my point, and I have my slope. I'm going to show you guys, or the way I'm going to do this is with point slope. So here's my point slope form to write the equation. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x sub 1. And I'm going to substitute in. So what's my point? What's my slope? I'm just going to rewrite the point and slope here for myself one more time. Here's the point, 6, 3. The slope, 3/2 goes in for m. The 6, my x value, goes in for x1, and my y value of, and my y value of 3 goes in for y sub 1. Y minus 3 equals 3 over 2 times the quantity of x minus 6. Distribute my 3/2. This is technically the equation, but I'm going to put this in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to distribute the 3/2 and then add the 3. So y minus 3 equals 3 over 2 times x minus 3 over 2 times 6 over 1. 3 times 6 is 18. 18 divided by 2 is 9. And again, grab a calculator if you need a calculator. Add 3 to both sides. And you get y equals 3 over 2 x minus 6. This will give you the equation, but does not give you the y-coordinate of your circumcenter. What do you have of your circumcenter? You have the x-coordinate. So I'm going to take my equation, y equals 3 over 2 times x minus 6. I already know what the x value is, which is 5, and solve for y. So 3 times 5, 15. 15 divided by 2, 7.5, and then minus 6, 1.5. So my circumcenter is 5, 1.5.